Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 5 o'clock and cooking show for October. This is our fall menu theme as well as the pre-Halloween. So welcome to the group. And if you are new to our cooking show, we really appreciate your participation. Is anybody going to cook with us tonight? Well, I'll make sure I'll keep us on time so that if you have any questions as we go, but is anybody going to cook? All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with the cinnamon rolls. So you're going to have your butter. I'm hoping your butter is softened if you had it out for a little bit. It's okay if it's not, but also get out your cream cheese. That will help it when we go to do the frosting. It will help make it blend up faster. So let's start with the cinnamon rolls. So our first task is to mix up the yeast, and we have fast acting yeast. Now the differences between yeast is that there's a rapid rise and then there's instant, right? We see instant all the time, and that's what a lot of people are also familiar with. And then there's dry active. So the biggest difference is the dry active, you have to actually bloom it and start it up. These varieties, you don't. You can actually add it directly into the dry ingredients and then add your liquids and go from there. So that's what we are using. Now this rapid rise, just a heads up, this one's designed to cook in the same day you make it. So our cinnamon roll recipe, you can leave it overnight and cook it tomorrow morning, or you can cook it today. But that's what the rapid rise, the difference is between instant and rapid rise, is one of them is actually meant for the same day cooking. All right. So put your yeast, get a good sized bowl. I'm going to scoop out 2 cups of flour out of your bag. So you have, everything is white. You have a giant bag of flour. I have extra flour that's in a small, it says extra. You have cinnamon roll sugar, CRS. You have CRSA, cinnamon roll salt. So this is going to go in our mixture right here. And we have an egg and point out the rest of these. So cinnamon roll powdered sugar. We have milk, vanilla, cream cheese. This is for our filling as well as the pumpkin. Okay, so those will be our filling. The rest goes with the frosting. But what we want to do is we want to get this, I want to get this part ready so that it can sit, because it's going to have to rest a bit. So again, 2 cups of the flour. And again, you can just kind of shake it, and we're going to mix it with the yeast, the salt, and the sugar. You're going to add your 2 cups of flour. Leave that in there. You're going to put your sugar in there. And then we'll put the salt. So it should be basically your dry ingredients, okay? Take a whisk or something that you can actually blend it up a little, I just mix it up. So mix, this is the yeast, flour, sugar, and salt. And the nice thing about instant dry yeast is that it's 100% active. So it's gonna work as soon as we add that water. Active dry yeast, which is what a lot of people will buy in those jars, nice, but again, it has to bloom, and it's really delicate when you think about temperatures. So if we do a hot temperature of the water, it'll actually kill the yeast. Versus this one, we're going to actually put 1.5 cups of water. I believe it's 1.5 cups. 1.5 cups of water. And then we're going to cut up the butter. So let me get 1.5 cups of water. And this is what we're going to melt our butter in. So get a microwave safe bowl or anything that you can put your microwave in the microwave with water and butter. Okay. So 1.5 cups of water. You can set aside your dried ingredients. Here's my butter, and I'm actually going to, oops, before I take that off, we need 6 tablespoons of butter for the cinnamon rolls. So we're going to go here. Slice right through. That's what's nice about butter. Gives you those little markers. So you're gonna save your 2 tablespoons for the frosting. That can be set aside. Okay. What I did to help the butter soften, it tells us that it's not going to melt fully, but I kind of want it to get to that point, so I'm not trying to break it up inside the dry ingredients. So I cut it, and you can either cut it in half. It depends on how soft it is, but let's get it into smaller chunks and put it into the water. And this is the water that we're going to put in the microwave to try and get this butter to melt a bit more. Now, that, like I mentioned, temperature. So active dry yeast, if you go above 115 degrees, you'll kill the yeast. This one and the instant yeast, so this is rapid rise, and instant, you can actually get it between 120 and 130. That's why your recipe says up to 120, 30. I have a thermometer, and I'm one that always have a thermometer in my kitchen. So I will take the thermometer over to the microwave so we can double check it. So we're going to take this over to the microwave, and we're going to microwave this for short bursts until we can get that melted a bit. Oops, things are okay. So I'm going to start out, depending on the power of your microwave. Try 15 seconds at a shot. And then we're going to stir it a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to check the temp. We want to get to about 120. So we'll go 15 seconds and see where it is. And then we can do another 15 seconds. When I did it earlier, it took me about 1 minute and 15. But I just don't want you to blow up the butter in the microwave and have it go all over, because you'll be cleaning the microwave later. So we'll go another few minutes or a few seconds and add some time. So how many people are cooking with us? Yeah. Taking on the adventures? All right. Let's see. So I'm still not at the point where it's starting to kind of melt, but we're not anywhere close. And my temperature right now is only about 95. So we're going to go a little bit longer. All right. 4. Yay. Up for the challenge. I like it. All right. 6 cooking. Right on. Again, it's not 100% hot. It's to the point where it's going to melt that butter. And as it sits a little bit, 7, right on. 105, 8. Yay. 9. We're bringing them up. Good job, everybody. That's what this is all about, is cook together. All right, let's see. All right, so if you look at it, I'm probably going to go just a little bit longer. So we want that butter to get, again, it's not going to melt fully, but I want it to, I don't want to have to break it up in the mix, in the dry mix. So I'm going to go probably another 15 seconds. So I think we've done it 1.5 minutes already. Again, the power of your microwave is going to tell you where and how long you're going to have to do it. If you have a really powerful microwave, caution, because it will get really hot really quick. So I'm at 115. Let's set it up to 120. We'll go another 15 seconds. All right. How many of you have ever made cinnamon rolls before tonight? That's a good question. Has anybody ever dared to try and make cinnamon rolls? All right. There we go. A lot of them are nevers. So yeah, we're at 120. Look at that, 120.5, right on. Okay, let's go back. And we're going to set that aside for a second. I'm going to crack my egg. Now, I will show you all what happens if you forget your egg and you want to add it after you've mixed all your dry ingredients. This is what happens. So this was the one I made yesterday evening. It's still salvageable, but it gets, it's real sticky. So it was not as mixed as I wanted it to before I finalized the kneading process. So don't forget your egg. That's always that, like, what's missing in the mix? So we're going to crack our egg over a bowl just so I don't put shells into the flour mixture. And I'm going to mix this up a bit. I don't know where my towel went. Can you grab a towel for me? I'm going to stir this up just a little bit. Perfect, thanks. Stir up this. So this is all about pumpkin pie, right? Pumpkin pie spice. So pumpkin pie spice has been around a really long time. When I did some historical lookup, back in 1675, it was found in some British recipes. So we're going to add, this is your egg. Go ahead and add that. By about the 1890s, it started showing up in cookbooks in the US. But by 1924, McCormick, which is one of our main spice groups, and I just kind of mix in my butter and water. By 1934, they officially launched it as a kind of as a commercial option for people. But pumpkin pie spice is, if you were to look at the label, typically, okay, so we're going to mix this. It talks about mixing it for 2 minutes on medium speed. So if you don't have a mixer, then you are your mixer, right? So I kind of tried to at least get this blended before I start mixing pretty heavily. But you actually want to start, you know, incorporating it, try and get the flour broken down so that we don't get chunks of flour. And then I'll time it for 2 minutes and we'll actually stir it at a consistent rate, but not quite yet. So most pumpkin pie spice has cloves. Cinnamon is usually your main spice, and then it's ginger. It might have, it usually has nutmeg in it. Some of them will have cloves, some of them won't. Maybe allspice, but traditionally, interestingly enough, they actually use black pepper in some of the original ones, and that's what gave it kind of that kick. So even in my two here, I have different ingredients. This one has cloves and allspice and mace, but this one only has, I think this one had like cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg. So you can see how different varieties, you can purchase different ones, and you can actually make it yourself. If you have all the spices on hand, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, you can make your own pumpkin spice and then add that black pepper if you want. Okay, so now this is kind of what your dough, your batter should look like. So we're going to do this for 2 minutes. We're going to just stir it and I'll scrape sides down. So 2 minutes. And this would be considered like a medium, talks about medium speed. And I'll scrape my sides. So 2 minutes of this. But it was originally, obviously, pumpkin pie spice was used for what? What was pumpkin pie spice created for or used with? Where did we start using pumpkin? Pumpkin pie. You are so right. And another little interesting thing about pumpkin pie is that we always thought that pumpkin pie was, you know, obviously it's a Thanksgiving treat, but it wasn't actually served at the very first Thanksgiving after, you know, settlers came over. It was actually served after the Pilgrims came over. It was actually served at the second Thanksgiving rather than the first. But pumpkin pie spice is definitely used. Now, what has become a trend is pumpkin spice, right? So what's the company that launched the pumpkin spice that has now become so famous, that has launched it in every other industry out there? Because you find it all over now. What company?
Starbucks.
Pumpkin spice Starbucks. You got it. Does anybody know when they actually started pumpkin spice lattes? The very first one? That's a good guess. It was in the 2000s, early 2000s. It was kind of like let's try this and see how we go. But it was 2003, in the spring of 2003, of all places, right? You think about timing, and that was the spring, not the fall. So it's been here 20, you know, it's been over here over 20 years now, or at 20 years, sorry. And so if we think about pumpkin spice latte, Did we hit 2 minutes? Okay, so that was your medium speed stirring. Add another cup of flour. We're gonna mix this in. So pumpkin spice latte. This year, if anybody's my Starbucks gurus or aficionados of pumpkin spice, this was the earliest launch ever. Does anybody know when it launched this year? So I told my classes all about it because it was pretty exciting. We just had started school. That helps. We were just beginning to start school, but it started this past August. What day? If anybody was watching their app. And of course, you know, you'll see it in the store in all kinds of mixes. Creamers, cookies, all the other coffee companies have jumped into the bandwagon, but pumpkin spice launched at Starbucks, the earliest ever. Let me know the date. That's a good trivial knowledge that you want to know. So, okay, we've got it mixed up. Now we're going another 2 minutes. And this is supposed to be high speed, so I can only stir so fast as well as the rest of you. So we're gonna stir this up 2 minutes and scrape down your sides still. No answers. You probably have to look it up, but what was it? That's even late. Shrink our date down a little bit. This is the earliest ever, which is crazy when you think about it. August, pumpkin spice latte, August. After we started school. When did we start? We started on the 10th, right? August 10th we started? Oh, wait, 22nd. Okay, sorry. I was thinking August 10th. So it was in that week, if that helps. It launched on a Thursday. How's our, it was the first week of school. Did I give anybody else another hint? Thursday, the first week of school. Thursday. Do I have 24th? Maybe it was, no, it was, I looked it up, it was 24th. Why am I thinking it was Thursday? Because I think I even like told everyone in my classes, right? It was Thursday. So it must have been the 26th, 24th. So how did I have my dates?
We started school Monday the 22nd.
21st.
Oh.
Monday was the 21st. 22nd was Tuesday. 23rd was Wednesday. 24th was Thursday. I knew it was a Thursday because I was so excited to talk about it. How's our 2 minutes of mixing? Okay. The next step is you're going to add your other flour that was up to that 5 cups. It talks about mixing it to until it hits a ball. We're at 2 minutes. Okay. So we're going to add another cup. And this is what I found with this flour. I've done this recipe 3 times in the last week. So I've tried all different varieties in different ways, but it took all 5 cups. So I will anticipate it will take all 5 cups again. And again, that if you think about yeast and you think about breads, humidity has a lot to play with the stickiness of dough sometimes, and we're real humid here. So expect your dough to be sticky. We are going to let it rest a little bit, which will help, but it does get, it does come together even after it looks real sticky. We had success. Oops. So we're going to go and try and incorporate this into making it look like a ball. So of course, pumpkin spice is used in a lot of things today, and we can find it in many recipes. So this is just one recipe that uses it. Anybody else use pumpkin pie spice for anything other than pumpkin pie, or what else has anybody used it for any other recipes that you want to share?
Pancakes.
We're pretty sticky still.
Someone said pancakes.
Ooh, yeah. What kind? Oh, another type of cake? Not familiar with roll cakes, but that sounds great.
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin crunch. Thanksgiving delight. So that was all, that almost was, did we do a full 5 cups going home with them?
Yep.
Or 4, okay. So let's see what this looks like. I did not pull mine out to knead it because of the sticky nature of the dough. Probably can salvage some of that flour. Due to the stickiness, I just kept working it in the pan, and I actually got to the point where it would spring back for me. So as long as you can incorporate our flour, but once I started trying to, pull it out to knead it, it got real sticky. So keep incorporating that 5 cups of flour, and it will eventually pull it in. And then we'll let it rest while I get the other things going. So what I think we'll do is we can make the filling next while this is sitting, and you just want to set it aside with a towel on it. We'll let it rest. It talks about 10 minutes, but it's obviously it's going to take a little bit longer for time-wise tonight to do that. So it's not going to hurt it to rest a little bit longer, but you can see it's pretty sticky, even with all that, the 5 cups of flour. So that's why I figured it's easier to actually handle it leave it in your bowl rather than trying to stick it on your counter, because it will stick to you and to your countertop. So as long as we can incorporate that flour. All right, how's everybody doing with their dough mixture? So far, so good? All right. All right, so again, it looks, I even added a little bit. You have the extra bag of flour. If you feel like you need that, that's going to be on your countertop as well. Like we can use it as what we call bench flour, but I'm still kind of sticky. So I'm going to grab the extra bag of flour, and we're going to try and get that a little bit less sticky. So I've got bag extra, and I just grabbed a little bit, not much, because that's going to be used on your countertop too. So I kind of patted it on there. This is kind of where you can knead it in the bowl. And the whole purpose of kneading is to like get your gluten strands going. And then that resting will allow them to kind of separate, or not separate, but actually like relax a little bit, so we can actually roll it out with it springing right back at us. So if you push on it and it springs back, you got a little bit more kneading. I mean, like I said, I'm doing it in the bowl, so you can kind of see how it springs back when I push on it. Get a little more, get rid of my sticky spots. There we go. So you can handle a little bit. This is what we'll put out on the counter. So now we should see, if I put 2 fingers in it, can you see it spring? Good. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going to go. I'm going to tuck it, just make it nice and shaped. Doesn't really matter because we're going to roll it out. And then we'll put a towel on top. I think I have a towel. We need to grab another towel. We'll put a towel on top of it, and then just let it sit. So there's your bowl. You don't have to worry about it. Your houses are probably warm at this point in the day. So unless you have the AC blasting, you can leave it out at room temperature. We're just let it sit for a little bit, and it's going to, it'll get bigger, which is okay. I'll leave it right here. Thanks. And then we'll,
Why the towel on?
oh, the towel is just to kind of protect it from drying out. I mean, some people will actually put like a layer of oil on top it's just so it doesn't dry out too much. Plus it keeps the warmth in there, right? Your yeast and your mixture was warm coming out of that microwave. So we're just keeping it warm. Let me rinse my hands, and we're going to start on the 1-pot pasta. So grab a pot, take this whole thing. I did say I would do the filling, but we can come back and make the filling, because we got a lot of time once the pasta's running. So your pot and you have tomatoes and mushrooms and zucchini. And this is for my water. I got a lid, a knife. You have sauce, spinach. That's going to be the last thing you add. So keep that to the side if you want to keep it in the container. That will help you remember. And then salt. So our 1 pot pasta. So we're going to start with the, let me grab my recipe. You're going to put your pasta into a large pot. You want to just, this could have been any kind of pasta. You could do spaghetti. Now,
Short pasta.
so another one of the things too is you wouldn't want to use angel hair in here. Why? Angel hair goes like cooks in 4 minutes. You also wouldn't want to use fresh pasta because pasta cooks fresh 4 minutes. So if you cooked it for 15 minutes, your pasta would be like mush. So you don't want to have anything that's going to take short time. So you could take spaghetti or fettuccine and you can break them up and create that. So we're going to do 1.25 cups of water. And it's going to take, when we talk about the time, we actually want to take our, when we get to like letting it simmer and get time, we're going to take that lid off just a little earlier than what it said in the recipe, just so we can get it to kind of reduce. So we're going to have pasta in there. We can cut up our onion and our garlic. So I'll do my garlic first because we're going to put all this in together. So 1 pot pastas are really nice because they just take 1 pot, and the whole purpose is that the starch from the pasta will help thicken the water and give you that sauce. But you also can reduce it, which means, you know, you let that evaporation of water go and it will help create that nice thick consistency for your pasta. So if you want, we tried this earlier. If you want to add more garlic, you are more than welcome to. I think it could even go, we probably have done like 3 cloves of garlic just to give it more flavor. It depends a lot on your base spice of your sauce. If you have a real flavorful sauce, that will also help. So we've got garlic, and then I'll do my onion. So we're going to do thinly sliced onions. So not chopped, but thinly sliced. And cut off anything that looks a little bit rough, we can cut that off. So what I do for thinly sliced, I think I'll lightly cut it off. Take any edges off that you don't need. So thinly sliced, just hold it, slice through it, gentle slice. Whoop. Follow the ribs of the onion, that will help a little bit. And it will, these will soften up quite a bit. And then we'll have zucchini, and we're going to quarter that. Turn it on the side, make it a little easier to handle. You're also going to do this with our apple today. We're going to make it nice and thinly sliced. So if you get to the point where it's getting too close to your fingers, you can turn it on the side, or we can leave it as is. Okay. 1 more slice. All right. Then we're going to chop up our bell pepper. No, bell pepper. I've had too many different pastas today. We're going to do our onion, zucchini, tomatoes, and mushroom. Okay. Zucchini. Rinse it off. Also, your tomatoes, go ahead and rinse them. And your mushroom. Usually we don't wash mushrooms because they pull in the moisture. So I'm going to cut that end off and leave the rest. I'll take a towel and clean it off, clean off the dirt if there's any. And then we're going to, the mushroom, we're going to slice it. If you slice kind of everything about the same size, you'll get the same cooking time. Although we're not going to cook, we're not going to make our zucchini quite as thin. All right, there's a mushroom. And then we've got our little grape tomatoes. We'll wash all these little ones. And we're going to cut them in half. So I just hold them, cut them in half. If you feel like that's too big and you want to cut them in a quarter again, you could definitely do that. You're not interested in biting into that big of a piece of tomato. They will break down some as we cook. You can cut them in half. All right, so zucchini, I'll cut the end off. We're going to quarter it. So I'll cut out that bad spot. Okay, so
Lily wants to know if we're putting this in the pasta pot.
yes, we are going to put this whole thing, all of this, and your salt and your sauce, we're going to put it all together. And the beauty of it is that your pasta starch will help thicken the sauce. You got your sauce cooking, so it's technically all in one pot. You don't have to separate it. You don't cook your noodles first. You cook them all together. So I'll get my zucchini cut up. That's a great question. Has anybody ever cooked a pasta dish like this before? I don't know if anybody's ever tried this before. And again, if you are, you want your pasta to get soft, but you don't want it to turn mushy. So it's kind of a fine line of timing and making sure it all comes out without being too soft. And that's why we're going to pull that lid and reduce it a little bit, because the pasta will cook in about 11 minutes. So what we'll do is take the lid off about, I'm going to pull it off about 9 minutes. And that way we can let that simmer down and it'll reduce the water consistency. So here we go. So you've got your sauce. You're going to add that in. And we'll get that so that we can get, we'll mix it all up. Then I'll take, I have salt. And then all my veggies. And remember, your spinach goes in after all this is cooked. So add all these good things in. Or they fall all over the stove. It'd be easier if I just use my hands. Looks like a lot. So
2 sauces.
do I have 2 sauces?
No, 1 sauce. Yeah, one is the pumpkin.
Oh, good question. So smell them. One will smell like, definitely like tomatoey, and one will be pumpkin-y. One is much more orange. Okay. Then I'll stir this up just a little bit, get things kind of blended, and then we're going to cook it. We're going to cook it with the lid on, so we're going to get it to boil. All right. Okay. Doesn't look like a done dish yet, but it will be in 10 minutes after we get it to cook. So I'm going to turn it up on, I'm going to do medium high to get it high heat. Let's go high. We want to get the boil going. Let's go. Get your knobs all the way up to high if you're comfortable. And then working. We'll get it to boil. We'll watch for that water to boil, and then we will cover it and drop the temperature and let it sit for about 9 minutes before we pull off the, I don't know if anybody sees all the smoke coming off the burner. Whatever was on the burner today is now part of the smoke mechanism coming over. Okay, so we're gonna let that boil. That's gonna take a minute. While you're waiting for that to boil, you can pull back we can pull our pumpkin goodies. So this is your frosting right here. Here's your pumpkin spice mixture and your pumpkin. So here is this is your pumpkin. So we'll put this in a small bowl. This one, and then we're gonna take the pumpkin out with us. Let's go. I don't want to we'll put our mixture in here. So that is sugar, cinnamon, pumpkin pie spice, and your pumpkin. Okay, so we'll get this. There we go. Check back my water's not quite there yet. Okay. So usually on a one pot, I'm talking pasta now, one pot pasta meal. Usually it's a ratio of 1 to 2, so 4 ounces of pasta to 8 ounces of liquid. And of course, if you did a pound of pasta, if you did a really big one for a family of 4, then you would do a pound of pasta to about 32 ounces of liquid. So whatever your liquid source is. And again, that could be water plus your sauces. All right.
Okay,
That's the one pot pasta.
but you're mixing up the puree.
Sorry, yes. Puree, pumpkin puree with the cinnamon, pumpkin spice, sugar mixture. This is just our filling. I was doing it as a side while I was waiting for my boiling water. How's my cooks doing? How are my cooks? Busy. I hear you. You're doing great. You will be successful. Okay. So that can just kind of sit. You all have that's frosting. So I'll leave that out as well as the vanilla and the milk. Okay, so that's your frosting. This is your extra flour. We're going to take that in a minute down to the other end of the counter, and we will blend or try and roll out our mix. So my water is not boiling yet. So we'll get it up there. And the reason they want you to start it on high to get it hot fast is so that you don't just evaporate all the water before everything cooks. And then we want to cover it. So we have a lid that's going to cover it pretty well. Sorry. So that we can cover it, and then it'll steam and get everything going, and you'll have this wonderful finalized pasta dish that you can add your spinach to. So our next task, I think what we'll do is let me check I don't know how long it's been since we did our dough. It's risen, and again, the rising for rapid yeast, this type of yeast will help things rise fastest, right? And so when you roll it out and when we cut it, it will even rise again before we bake it. So this is what we're looking for. We'll take this next, and then maybe what we'll do is get our cinnamon rolls cut, and then we'll do our salad. How's that sound? We're all good on that. Okay. And I'm still waiting on my water to boil. A watch pot never boils, right? Let's see what else I have here. Oops. Again, we talked about thin noodles. We talked about thick noodles. We can start talking a little bit about apples. Tonight we're going to use apples for our salad. Any idea how many apples? Like, what's the favorite apples for the US? Does anybody have an idea? Think of some apples that you all enjoy. What are some apples that, top 10 US apples? And they're grown in multiple areas. We don't just grow them in the US. We absolutely grow them in countries, other countries besides the US. China, US, Turkey, Poland, Italy. All of those are top apple producers. But what are some of your favorite apples that we grow in the US? Fuji is a big one. Yeah. It's still not quite boiling. Granny Smith's. Yeah.
And we or Nala.
And Interestingly enough, envies. Does anybody know where envy apples actually originated? They didn't originate in the US. They came from somewhere else before we got them. I don't know if anybody knows that little bit of trivia. They actually came from somewhere else. Another country grew envy apples. They were actually across, the envy apples were across from, let me find my notes.
What do we do when our water is boiling?
We're gonna reduce it to a simmer. I've got mine boiling now, okay? We did get that boil. It was boiling a second ago. It's like on one edge boiling. So I'm gonna reduce it temperature wise. Can't quite get everything. Yeah, it's starting to boil. Edges are boiling. See that? So let's reduce our temperature down to, I think we gotta go medium, low. So maybe 4 on your knob, okay? 4 and cover it. We're gonna let it sit for 9 minutes, okay? Once you get to the boil, reduce your heat down to 4, between 4 and 5, and we're gonna go down to 9. We're gonna time it for 9 minutes, okay? That's going. I think we can take our dough and roll it out. Then I'll come back and talk more apples. So take your dough, take your extra flour, We're gonna walk down here and we're gonna roll out our dough. So the nice thing about countertops, if your countertop is ready to go and you have enough counter space, you can roll it right on your counter, but you can also use a cutting board. Flour your cutting board a little bit. That's what this extra flour is. This is actually called bench flour, and it allows you to put it on top of something like a cutting board. So I'll spread it out. If you're comfortable working with the whole batch, you can. I mean, this is going to be this makes a big rollout. So if your cutting board is small, cut it in half, do halves. It's okay to start half. So I'll turn this out, try and get it out of the bowl. And then I'll cut it in half. If you've got a knife, you can cut it in half, or a bench scraper. You can do that. And we'll cut it in half. So still a little sticky on the ends. And I'll add just a little bit of my extra flour just so that I don't have to fight with the stickiness. And then I'll cut it in half just so you get an idea of size. So the whole recipe makes, you can make 9 per half. A whole recipe will go anywhere from 18 to 20. It just depends on how big you want to roll it out. So I'm going to cut it in half. And I'll let this kind of sit on the side while I roll this. You have a pan. You have a foil pan. Make sure you grease your foil pan. So we didn't send you home with anything to grease it, but get something like Crisco, or you could use a little bit of butter. You just want to make sure it's easy enough to get them out after they've cooked. Oops. If you don't have a rolling pin, that's a great question. So anything flat, water bottles would work, cups, like some glasses. I would think most people have a tall, like 20-ounce glass. That would be an ideal way to do it too. And if you don't have anything like that, even just flatten it with your hands, right? You can flatten it out with your hands. Okay, and I'm going to try and get it fairly even. And if you can get it into a square, great. If you get an oblong, that's fine too. But we're trying to go squarish because I'm going to actually roll this. So we're going to take half, because I rolled out half. So I'm going to spread half of my pumpkin spice mixture out. And then we're going to spread that around. And we're going to try and get it to the edges, leave some space, because we're going to pinch the edge, and then we'll cut it. So yeah, it's sparingly, got to spread it out. And this is kind of it's like pizza, right? Pizza dough. and sauce, but cinnamon rolls. How's everybody doing that's rolling it out? Are you having luck with it not sticking too badly or rolling back on itself? That resting time helps to let it kind of relax so that you can roll it out. You want to go as close as you can, because remember that edge is going to be something that we're going to eat. So try and get as close to the edges without going over too much. And if it, as you roll it, you'll also find that the filling will kind of start pushing towards the outside anyways. Okay. Oops. Get rid of the extra filling. Is everybody doing okay on their cinnamon rolls? Okay. So here's where your bench scraper comes in really nice and handy. I'm going to kind of loosen it up. Then I'm going to try and roll it. You don't want to try and stretch it, but you want to just roll it up on itself. A little bit at a time. You can dust any flour off. We're going to pinch these edges in a minute. Sticky. So we'll try and get those edges together. Trying to create that nice, it's not going to seal, but you can try and get as close as you can. Okay, so you should have about that. And I'll make 9 out of this, 9 for every half. So I'll use my bench scraper again. If you don't have bench scraper, use a knife. And then we're going to cut them. Try and blunt that edge so that when you put it in the pan, it's flat, right? So we'll blunt the edge. So let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 10. All right, 10 will work. And then we're going to put that into, I can put it on the seams.
Oh, it's not free.
Oh, I got to grease my pan. Whoops. So let's do some, I'm going to use Crisco. And I'll smear that just in the bottom and the edges, because they actually go, once it rises again, it's going to hit the edges. So get your edges nicely greased as well. You could preheat your oven. We're going to let this sit a half hour or so. So if you want to get your oven started as soon as we won't be able to, you won't be able to bake these until after we're done, but you can do it at, your oven's going to be 350. So we're going to put these guys in. And we'll kind of let them sit. Whoop. Don't worry, they'll be pretty once they start to fluff out. Okay, so I'll try and blunt the end of that one. Get these. And that one at the end. Kind of space these guys out because look, they're going to rise. So they're going to double. You're going to watch them and they're going to double in size. So we want to give yourself enough space between them and then they will double in size. So that's the beginning. And this is what you're going to see before you bake them. Okay, so those are most definitely double, even bigger than double. We let those sit for about a half an hour to 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how warm your kitchen is. If your kitchen's really warm, these might rise pretty quickly. This is, again, that real quick rise. So you could do 2 things. You can bake them or you can put this in the fridge and that refrigerated temperature will stall out the rise. So they won't rise anymore. You could cover it with a piece of foil. We're going to put these in the oven.
She wants to know if you use all the filling or just half.
I used half for the 10 because we're going to have more. I have another half for my second half of the dough. They are given 2 pans. So you can do it in 2 pans because it gets pretty big. All right, so we'll start that timer. Once you've cooked them, after that hour they sat, then you're going to be looking at them like that. They should get that golden color because this is what we're gonna frost, but it has to cool. So you wanna let them cool a little bit before you frost them. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Let's do your salad really quick. And then we'll come back to the frosting. All right, so now your salad, you have, how's our time on our one pot? Nine minutes past? Said 9 minutes past, but we're still not quite cooked. Pasta wasn't quite cooked. It's getting there. You can see how some of the ones that are in the, definitely were in the water cooking. So I'm gonna cover it for probably another 2 minutes, and then we're gonna pull that lid off, okay? So we'll cover that back up for 2 more minutes. All right, salad. So you've got, let me get a different knife, because this one cut garlic and onions. We don't wanna have onion flavored apple. All right, so wash your apple. You've got, and I'm gonna do this. So we're gonna cut our apple and we're gonna cut thin slices. You should have a mustard mixture. You should have extra or olive oil or oil, bacon and feta, and pecans and craisins. If you want, you can, I think based on our time here, I don't know if I'll have time to walk you through the toasting of these, but you can cut them in half and toast them. Otherwise, you can cut them in half and just use them as is. I mean, they're cooked, obviously, because we get them cooked, but you can toast them if you want to give us a little bit more flavor. So we're gonna mix up the spinach, and we can create, actually, I think I'll do my salad dressing in a bowl real quick. So put your olive oil. Apple cider vinegar is probably what this one, right? With the, or maple syrup and oil and vinegar. Oh, I should know that, because look, you're getting like a little emulsion in there. So, and you can smell it. All right. So then we're gonna add this too. This is your mustard and maple syrup, is my guess. And then we can add salt and pepper to taste. And then I'll get either, you can either use a fork or a whisk and just kind of whisk it up. This is a temporary emulsion, so it's gonna separate at some point, and you're gonna probably have to redo that once we get ready to pour it on. This is for the pasta. So you have a bag of spinach. Like I said, you have your feta and bacon, and we will whisk up our dressing a little bit. 2 minutes is up on my pasta, so I will. And that's like, the mustard is stubborn. All right, gonna pull the lid off. Ooh, look at that. I think I'll turn my heat down just a touch. So I'll turn it down to like 3. And then what I'm doing is, this is perfect, but you got that little bit of water. So we're gonna try and reduce that a little bit without overcooking everything. So I'm turning my heat down just to let that come off, the water evaporate off, and we'll reduce it. Okay, back to your salad, sorry. We're kind of all over right now. So apples, thinly sliced. So you can do whatever is comfortable for you. Sometimes people like to do it right off the core. I like to get my core out. So we'll pull the core out. We were talking about apples. What other favorite apples are out there? I think we said Fuji's. These are Fuji's that you're using tonight. It'll be easier to. What other apples do we usually have? Common ones. Oh, Envy. I was talking Envy apples. Where they're originated from. Not the US. US, Washington State, Pacific Northwest, you know, they're known as our apple growing area. Anywhere it's cold. We don't grow apples in Hawaii, except mountain apples. But we don't grow traditional apples. Anybody know where Envy started? Okay, now we're somewhere what? Religious. Hmm. Maybe. Oh, yes. Envy. All right, so I'm gonna cut these small. They actually started in New Zealand, of all places. So they were originally from New Zealand. So you can get your thin slice. If you don't want to have to think about biting into a giant, like that big of a half, you can cut them in half and go that route as well. This just gives it a pretty start. So slice your apples, your comfort level on how you want to slice them thin, or how, if you want to do it with the core in there. Any other varieties of apples? Yeah. We said Granny Smiths. Those are the, so there's different ones for pies, right? A lot of times pies call for Granny Smiths, and that's just because the tartness of them is a nice complement to the sweet sugar. So you can definitely use Golden Delicious apples are also used in pies, but it depends on how sweet you want your pie. There's Macintosh and Red Delicious. Those are traditional apples. This is a trivia question and a question to everybody. Who's the one that spread the apple trees amongst the US nation? This is a long time ago. So we got our apples cut. I can put my, who started? Yeah, so Johnny Appleseed is actually a legitimate person, and he started spreading apples in the US. So we've got that stirred. We kind of want to stir it so it doesn't stick. And you can test your pasta for being al dente, which it looks pretty close. I've used that, but that looks good. And your one pot pasta is done. And here is my final, you can see how it's reduced and it's created that nice sauce. Garnish it with some basil if you'd like, and some Parmesan cheese. And that's your one pot pasta. Our salad is going to come together. We're going to put our spinach, put that into a container. We're going to add our basically layers, spinach, feta, and bacon. You can layer your apples on there. We can do the pecans and craisins, and then we can toss it with, you basically are going to mix this all together. Even though it says layer it, you're going to be tossing it together. Whoop. And like I said, if you wanted to toast your pecans, and then we'll mix this up one more time. I probably should use a spoon to get some of that mustard to flatten out. It just doesn't want to break down. You might have a little bit of mustard in your dressing. Yeah, we were talking Johnny Appleseed. He's the one that actually spread apples and kind of began that. Here's another trivia, which US president had his own apple orchard and enjoyed working with pruning his own apple trees? This has always been like that. Here's our salad. And when we mix it all up, we didn't get to make the frosting yet. So here's our salad. All right, everybody, I'm going to put my spinach into my pasta. Thanks for sticking with us. I know we're going to be just a hair over, probably give us 5 minutes over, I would say. And there's your spinach. And that'll break down and wilt nicely. Okay, let's go back to our, all right, cream cheese, 3 ounces. And you're going to mix your cream cheese and your butter first. I did such a good job wrapping up your cream cheese, I can't get my wrap off. So it should just fall out nicely. Then you've got your 2 tablespoons of butter. Did we come up with the president that did the apple trees? I don't know if anybody knows that one. Yeah. So we're going to get a fork and we'll mix this up really good. So mealy apples, if you think about mealiness, they're kind of like dry. When you bite into them, they break apart. There's mealy apples, and then there's like more of a fresh, crisp style. So that's the difference with some of them. And as apples age, they tend to get mealy. So over time, that's going to be your downside. But those are great for breaking down and mixing them into applesauce, or maybe not so good if you want to have a pie that the apples stay together. That's why we use the Golden Delicious or the Granny Smiths. They just tend to hold. Plus the sugar in your mixture creates that osmotic pressure, and the apples don't break down. If you did apples with just plain water, they will start to break down. The sugar wants to go out. So we're going to we mixed our cream cheese and butter. Now I'll add my powdered sugar. Oops.
What was that written on the bag?
CRP, cinnamon rolls, powdered sugar, PWS, I believe. So you're just going to mix this in. A little bit of knowledge too. It takes 36 apples to make 1 gallon of apple cider. Now, another fun fact. I'll ask this question, see if anybody knows this. Which apple is actually native, the only true native apple species to North America? There's only one. We have had others come in from Pilgrims, brought them over, settlers brought them over, but there's only one true apple that's actually from native North America. What's that?
Is it famous or no?
Yeah, it's pretty famous. We don't necessarily eat it because it's not all that edible, but it's very famous. It's used for, we turn it into something. Crab apple. Yeah, Damien, our fierce help here, came up with that. So crab apples, not the most edible, right? So what they turned it into was they would turn it into hard cider. So an alcohol, ferment it and create hard cider. And then they would also turn it into Applejack, which is a whiskey. So crab apples are the only true native species of apples to North America. The rest come from other places. So we're almost done with our frosting. And again, if you have a hand mixer, it would make things a lot faster. But again, if you don't, then you just mix it up by hand. If you want to have a thinner frosting, like you want it to be more of a glaze, or you want it to be thinner, easier to work with, possibly, you can add the milk. I'm going to add my vanilla before I add milk because I actually like it thicker. I like that thick frosting consistency. And you can decide if you want to add your milk. Just do it gradually. Don't add the whole thing at one time, because that's 2 tablespoons. So add your milk at your consistency that you want to get to. But this will spread nicely on top of those cinnamon rolls. I'll share one last fact. How many of you have bobbed for apples ever? Why is it that we can bob for apples? Never bobbed for apples? Oh my goodness, that is so much fun. That was a Halloween traditional thing forever.
Not COVID friendly.
Oh, not in today's society. We're not bobbing for apples and getting people's faces in the water and spitting in there. Yeah, I mean, that was the tradition. And actually the tradition is that back in the day, that it was the name of your suitor or your person that you were going after was carved into an apple. And so if you landed that apple for the first time, you were supposed to live happily ever after and no problems. If it took you the second time to catch that name, then they were saying, it was like you would live together and you would get married, but it may not be as happily ever after. And then if it took you 3 times, then it was just, you're out of luck or whatever. But they actually used to carve the name of your suitor or your person on the apple, and you would bob for that. But the fun thing is they're 25% air. That's why they float. Apples they have a lot of air. So that's my consistency without milk. And I kind of like that frosting. So I'm going to grab my cinnamon rolls, and we're gonna spread this on. So you can use a knife or a fork or whatever you have, maybe a spreader or a knife. And we'll do, we're just gonna kind of goop it on there. And again, this is a nice consistency. If you add the milk, it will get runnier, which is fine. It's your call. You taste it first. But if I put, a dollop on there, whoop, maybe the whole thing.
This is only half.
Oh, yes. So this is a half a batch. Or no, this is the whole, We're gonna keep half of it for the other half that we didn't bake off yet. But this is what you're frosting. So use half of your consistency. And if your rolls are a little bit hot, then they'll kind of glaze in there. And create that. Or if you want to try your cinnamon rolls without the glaze, you can go that route too. All right. Decorate it up as much as you want. Frost as much as you want.
Oh, really?
Video went off, maybe an hour.
Restart it? But now. No, everybody's got a,
Is it the hour time frame? Maybe the Zoom.
yeah, everybody has.
Did we lose everybody online?
Oh, no, no, okay.
Okay. All right. Again, you make your consistency of your batter to what you want. Wow. An hour and 8 minutes. We did a 1-pot pasta. We did cinnamon rolls. This is the most challenging as far as time wise. And then we did the salad. So you have dinner on us. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back in November. Watch for the emails that come out on for the school group. And for those of you that have joined us outside any of our alumni, we appreciate you coming to join us for an evening of cooking and sharing fun facts. So come back next month and we'll see you soon. Happy Halloween, everybody. Bye.